呢，其实我们这个报复性的出差和交流，在今年最让我感觉到激动人心的场景，不是在深圳，也不是在美国，不是在哪里，是在不丹。你们可能上一次听说不丹是梁朝伟和刘嘉玲的婚礼吧？就我们去不丹的时候，我以为这是一个非常新的地方，从头开始去建设 Maker 的这样的一些运动和数字化转型。但去了之后，我发现我幼稚了。所以今天我们特别邀请到，应该是有史以来第一位来自于不丹的讲者 Chirag, welcome.
So I'm Chirag and I'm from a small country in Asia, it's called Bhutan. And yeah, I landed here at 3 a.m. in the morning and I haven't had access to WhatsApp, Gmail, and for the last, 8 to 9 hours. And I like it. Why? Because in China, you guys are totally not reliant on big corporates. For example, in Bhutan, if Google goes down, then the whole country is dead. If Facebook goes down, then the whole country is dead. That's why I feel China is self-sustainable, self-reliant, and we always look forward towards having China. We look China as an example. That's where Bhutan is heading to, and we deeply appreciate what you are doing for the global community as well. So I'll be talking about my country a bit and what are the innovative measures that are being taken by Bhutan, and then how we're trying to find makers in Bhutan. So, I'll just play this video once. Please feel free to stop me if you have any questions in between. It can be a very interactive session as well. I'll use help from some of my colleagues here. I guess that's the video. Maybe I'll ask one of the young kids who is there. So maybe if you could translate and ask her to point where she thinks Bhutan is. Yeah, on the map. Yeah, no, she's shy. Anyone who hasn't been, of course not Eric or anyone who's been to Bhutan before, but maybe I'll ask someone who's talking about the Neom city in Saudi Arabia that time. Yeah, the one in green shirt. Yeah. Can he? Oh, he knows. So we're located somewhere between India and China. We're just 46,000 square kilometers. So if you see there, we're just a tiny dot. So even if Bhutan is disappeared tomorrow, nobody will know and nobody will hear about us, right? But then, so these are some of the places we can come to Bhutan. And Bhutan, interestingly, we don't have any traffic lights, unlike in China or anywhere in the world. So all the traffic lights are hand controlled. While in 2001, they installed some traffic lights, but people didn't like it. They said, "Oh, I like the policemen better controlling my traffic." So that's why we removed all the traffic lights that were there. So still now it's the same. There's a cop who waves, and then you have to follow his direction. So in terms of development, innovation, technology also, we've been quite late. If you look at 1914, that was the first time a school was established. Of course, we had a lot of Tibetan influence in terms of Buddhism. So we had a monastic body, a lot of people follow Buddhism, and we have direct connect. We used to have, and we still have direct connection with the Tibetan province in China. So the first 5-year plan and the first road was made only in 1961, which is quite late, of course. Right then, a lot of things have happened in the world. I mean, the Second World War had happened. Until then, we didn't have any roads. So there's also a very interesting term that's been coined by our king, His Majesty the our fourth king, which is gross national happiness. So gross national happiness, it's where we say happiness is more important than economic development. So that's where our philosophy is. So if you look at Bhutan, if any of the development happens, before that we give a survey saying, will you be happy if we do this kind of projects in the country? And only then, if it really brings happiness to the people, then we go for the socio-economic development. And we have a very close relationship with the environment, the nature, the wildlife, the animals, the pests. So what you see a lot of stray dogs in the city. Why? Because we feel like it's a Buddhist way of living, and then we feel that in the next life they'll be born as human. That's why we treat all animals, plants, trees really well. So if you look at 2008, we moved from monarchy, meaning His Majesty the King, he gave up his throne. Why? Because not because the people wanted it. So the people always wanted monarchy, but then his Majesty imposed democracy on us. None of the people in Bhutan wanted democracy. Even now, if you ask some of the people here, they'll never say, "Oh, I want democracy." Why? Because there are too many politicians. But it's always better when His Majesty is there, leading the whole country. So Bhutan is unique in such a way. So now in the 21st century, especially after COVID-19 happened, we were left alone. No one was there to help us because we were in such a position between China and India that, and all of the countries were thinking about themselves that nobody thought about Bhutan during COVID-19. And I work with Druk Holding and Investments, which is the highest revenue generator for Bhutan. So we have all this company like bank, electric utility, hydropower, everything. We own these companies. So that's the next slide. So this is His Majesty the Fifth King, Jigme Namgyel Wangchuck, and he's the one who's leading this country. And he's always worried about Bhutan. He's always thinking how we can develop Bhutan, just like how China has paved this way. So with that, there was a thought that innovation and technology would be the greatest thing that Bhutan ever can leapfrog with. So the term leapfrog meaning you can jump quickly to the other end. So if you look at Bhutan, we don't have any seaport. The internet is not that great, but we have hydropower. So my monthly electricity bill at home is 10 Chinese yuan every month. So we have very cheap electricity. We export our electricity, and that's how we generate a lot of revenue. So maybe I'll revolve my conversation around that. So if you look, we depend 43% on foreign trade, for example, with the World Bank, with the Asian Development Bank. And then there's a lot of imbalance, meaning we import more than we export. So we are the first consumers in terms of technology. If an iPhone 15 comes out, then we'll be the first people to go buy it. But then we never think about how we built this inside our country. So that's where we needed to come up with a strategy. So we wanted to change the economic strategy that we had. And that's where we thought makers would bring about a change. So why makers? Because Bhutan, we just have 700,000 people. That's like 0.0005% of what China's population is. And out of 700,000, we feel that even if we have 100,000 makers, then they'll make a difference. They'll make products that are unique to Bhutan. So if you look at big countries, you usually have people who you usually have companies that build products for your people, but for Bhutan, no global company will make products for you. Why? Because you're just 700,000, right? So that's why we need to build our own products because our conditions are different. We live in the Himalayas, starting from 200 meters above sea level to 6,000 meters. And for that, your BYD car, electric car might run for 400 kilometers in China. In Bhutan, it will just run for 150 kilometers. Why? Because of the altitude, the terrain, the climatic conditions. So these are some of the differences. That's why we need to innovate and build something on our own at the end of the day, and no one is there to help us. So this is our crown prince, who's the son, who's the future king of Bhutan, and he inaugurated the Jigme Super Fablab. So a Super Fablab is something whereby you can make machines that go in a Fablab. So we have machines such as the water jet cutter, the wire ATM, and very soon next month we'll be having a bamboo 3D printer as well. So the one who is just presenting for this. This was our crown prince. He was just 5 years old when he inaugurated last year. And that's our traditional dress. We usually wear ko and women wear Chirag. So why our crown prince came to inaugurate this place is because this is a leapfrogging age for Bhutan, and then this signifies change. This signifies something new is coming up in Bhutan. So that's where we're trying to build an innovative ecosystem in the country, leveraging the makerspace. So that's how His Majesty, with the planned network, now we run a lot of programs, we include a lot of makers, we help them prototype, we help them ideate, everything for free. So we don't charge our makers at all, especially if they're into the school or the college degrees. Why? Because we want them to be next generation of entrepreneurs. So we just have 777,000 people in the country, and there are 6 Fab Labs. So if you look at the numbers, we have one Fab Lab for 129,000 people, which is quite an exciting number if you look at the ratio, right? So that's where we feel we can bring about next generation of change, next generation of makers in the country. So at Bhutan, we're desperately looking for makers. For you, it must be looking for hobbyists, but for us, we want makers to scale up our economy for the country and do something different for Bhutan. So we desperately need makers. So that's where we are trying to bring about a lot of solutions in bringing all the makers together in the country. So we talk to people who are just 4 years old to people who are 50 years old. So that's the widest range of people that you can think of. And recently we hosted the Fab 23, of course, Mitali, Kate, and all of them, they were there. We had around 300 international participants, 600 in total, whereby we came up with a lot of solutions focused on helping communities solve their issues. For example, there's a lot of human-wildlife conflict whereby your farmers, their agriculture produce gets destroyed by wildlife. Then we tried coming up with a solution with help from the global community. And now we're working on how we can take this project further. So we had a lot of activities, a lot of people, a lot of knowledge sharing, network, and of course Eric was there and some of his teammates from Seed were also there. So at where I work, we're trying out all these projects at once. We're doing like 40 projects at once, and we know that 70% of this will fail, and will fail miserably. I mean, we have failed a lot. But the best part about technology is when you fail, you always get to apply what you feed in to the other project, and that's the best part about technology. So failure is really good. For example, SpaceX, they crashed their satellite more than 15 times, right? But every time Elon Musk said, "Oh, if we fail, it's always better." Why? Because you learn more. If everything happens at once, then you don't know what the mistake is. That's why we always say failure is always good. So please don't be afraid to fail. And even for Bhutan, we know some of the things we'll fail in, but it's always something you can take out of. So yeah, we are doing a project called water management system whereby we're tracking water from glacial level to the household level. And we don't have sensors that work in negative 30 degrees Celsius. And now we're working to building our own sensors. Of course, we're using a lot of Raspberry Pis, Arduinos, and some of the sensors from seed. And then, yeah, watershed monitoring. So one thing is, if this technology works in Bhutan, then this technology will work in the whole Himalayan range. So this technology will work in Nepal, Afghanistan, Pakistan, India, and Southeast Asia. And none of these countries have been catered to such problems. And the worst part is Bhutan has 70% of world forest cover. We're not polluting, yet we are seeing the effects of climate change. That's how bad our condition is. So we're using technologies such as drones, AI, satellite imaging, and trying to help better have people access to water. Not just people, but our whole country revolves around water because of energy production. So we're also going towards glacial level from the Himalayas. I guess I don't have much time. So this is the technical architecture. We have sensors, gateway, drone, satellite. So everything here has been developed by our team in Bhutan, except for the sensors. All the sensors are bought from China, of course. So in Bhutan, there's not much good telecommunication service. So what you see, BT is the telecom provider in the country. But then that's why we're using a lot of LoRaWAN, NB-IoT, Zigbee. Why? Because there's no communication for our IoT devices. So these are some of the solutions. Of course, we could go for satellite communication, but it's way too expensive for us. And then power solutions. So some of the places in Bhutan does not have utility. So we use a lot of solar panels and BAWT. Now we are also trying to build our own Pico turbine to power some of our devices that are at remote sites. And yeah, more than 70% of the country is covered in trees, and Bhutan for all times to come will always have 60% of coverage. So it's written in our constitution to always have more than 60% coverage of forest. So we're also building a national carbon repository. What it means is, so all the trees that have been kept in the country will ultimately be stored in this national carbon repository. We're working with the World Bank on this. So every tree, every power that's being generated will go into this centralized database, and then the people who planted those trees will be rewarded through blockchain system. So we're using Chia blockchain, whereby we'll individually incentivize people who are planting trees, who are contributing to a green awareness. So this is a big project that we're doing. Next, we're trying to use satellite imagery in counting each and every tree in Bhutan. That way, we will credit each and every tree and then make people more aware. So talking about blockchain, maybe final thing, since we have a lot of hydropower energy that's there and we don't have good electricity, that's why Bhutan is mining a lot of bitcoins. So you can't imagine how much bitcoins we're mining, and you'll be blown away. Why? Because electricity is super cheap. Like I said, it's for me, my personal bill is 10 yuan per month. So that's why we mine a lot of Bitcoin. We don't need cooling because the weather is favorable. And yeah, in crypto space, Bhutan is one of the leading countries as a whole in the crypto space now. And we are also working working in the field of Internet of Things, artificial intelligence. That's it. If you have any questions, let me know. I'll be around for 2 days, so you can talk to me later also. Tashi Dele is Sheshe in Chinese. Thank you. Over to you, Eric.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
We'll just welcome some questions.
Yes.
Yes. If you have questions in Chinese, also you can ask. I'll ask some of my friends to help me with translation.
Hi. I want to know how the people think of the application of solar power, wind power in your country. I mean, for example, like I want to know because solar power and also wind power, they also have drawback. And how people think about those problems and do they accept those power solution there?
Yes, so people in Bhutan are very naive in a way that some of them don't even know where their power is coming from. But of course, if you look at Bhutan, all of the power is coming from hydroelectricity. And we are the only country in the world that generates 100% clean energy. On top of that, you usually need hydropower to maintain the 50 hertz grid frequency. On top of that, we also use solar power plants, vertical axis wind turbine, and pico hydros. So that way, I think people in villages are not so aware about where their power is coming from. But if you look at some of the, for example, for me personally, I live in a city. I mean, we just have 200,000 people there, but still we call it a city. There, we are very much aware. Now people are slowly moving into solar rooftop, vertical wind access turbine. Okay, sorry. And then also with pico hydro. So I guess it's a changing thing. And as we grow, I think more people will understand. But for us engineers, I think everybody will. Any other question? Yes. Yes.
Hello? I was fortunate to be in Bhutan this year, and I really love the country and really love all the innovation that's happening over there. One thing about individual makers, though, because you mentioned if you want more makers from internationally come to Bhutan and maybe contribute, is the tourism tax. So is there any on like ways to incentivize, more innovators from around the world to be able to afford to go to Bhutan to do innovation activities?
Yes. So, of course, not the right time to talk, but there's a fund that Israel launched in 1996. It was called the Yozma Fund, whereby the government put in $1 billion. And then a lot of startups and different people from around the world started coming to Israel. Now in Bhutan, we are working on having a same technology fund or an endowment fund. So the government or where I work, which is Druk Holding and Investments, we're planning to pitch in some amount of money, of course, maybe lesser than $1 billion. And then if a startup comes from abroad and if they want to build something, then we'll provide them with funds and no risks involved. If you fail, okay, you fail, but you teach that lesson to all the other startups and other entrepreneurs that are there. So I guess those sort of funding will help our country. And of course, if you visit Bhutan, the per day charge is USD 100. But then if you're an innovator, if you want to come up with a startup, then personally from us, what we can do is we usually provide an invitation letter to you. That way you don't have to pay the sustainable development fee, which is 100 USD per day. So these are some of the favorable things that you can do once you're in Bhutan. Anyway, any further questions?
Can I just add a little bit more to that?
Sure.
So one thing that I was also amazed at was that WeChat was actually also used by Bhutanese. And some of the, I think even some of the farmer or like villages, people in a remote area, they like WeChat because they like the voice capabilities, right? So, but there's no WeChat mini program like in Bhutan at all. And there's like, but I think that's, one of the skills that a lot of the Chinese developers will be able to bring in to further digitize that.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So everyone in Bhutan, most of the people use WeChat, and even monks use WeChat to share their teachings to their followers. And even farmers have their own farmers group whereby they'll say, "Oh, the rain is coming tomorrow," because they don't know how to use weather apps. And to some of my young Chinese friends, what I'd like to recommend or tell you is language is never the barrier. English is never a problem. So with technology space, there's only one language, which is programming, solving problems with your solution. So English is never, don't think of English as a barrier. It's just a skill that helps you for a bit, but then ultimately with the country that you have, with the system that you have, I feel like language is never a problem for you guys. That's why your technology is being loved and praised by everybody in the world. With that, thank you everyone. It was a pleasure for me, and thanks Eric for inviting me over and the whole team. All right, thank you, bye.